I like to always double check YouTube to make sure we are live. So if you guys want to check it also, if anybody sees it sooner than me, that'd be great.
It's on.
Oh, we are online like Donkey Kong. Somebody sees all our happy faces. Everybody wave to your moms and dads and kids and stuff like that. So you're seeing us live? Somebody seeing us live?
Yeah, I see it on YouTube. Yeah.
If you have the YouTube page open, I would suggest muting the YouTube feed.
Oh yeah. But you see us live. There we are. All right. Hey guys, this is Jim Gaston. We are Reboot, and this is the Reboot crew. This is our inaugural show. We want to thank you for joining us. What's the premise of our show? Well, the concept of Reboot is to discuss topics that all businesses face in the areas of cybersecurity, technology, general business, sales, marketing, and so on and so forth. We all make decisions as business owners all the time, and there may be great decisions, there may be not so great decisions. You know, maybe we make decisions based on money. Maybe we make decisions based on the effort that it takes for something. But our goal here on Reboot is to discuss those topics, general topics that we all, face all the time as business owners ourselves, and give you, the audience, the opportunity to reboot your thought-making processes, your decisions, and so on and so forth. So everyone here is a business owner, and I'll start. I'm Jim Gast, and my company is SpliceNet, and we're out of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Hey guys, this is Brian Bracci from B&L PC Solutions. I'm a managed service provider on Long Island in New York.
David Luft with LDB Consulting out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, the chili capital of the world. And we have an MSP out here also.
I'm Dave Grew with WinStar Technologies. We're in Culpeper, Virginia, which is basically a sleeping community for the Washington, D.C. area. And we are in traditional IT support managed services with an emphasis on security and compliance.
I'm Ryan Heisler. Company is Computer Ease. We're headquartered in St. Louis, and we serve St. Louis area, most of the state of Illinois with managed IT, and been here since 1984.
Hey everybody, I'm Stephanie Groot with WinStar Technologies, and I'm in Culpeper, Virginia.
Hey guys, Brandon Bowers with Zentech Data Systems out here in sunny South Florida. And if you wait 5 minutes, it may be rainy South Florida. It really depends on the time of day. But we're also in ITMSP.
And I'm Adam Pittman, coming to you from the Research Triangle Park area of North Carolina. And we're also an MSP, just like everybody else on here. And hope you enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Pavi Mehta from sunny San Diego, California, 15 years in the MSP business.
Great. Everyone, thanks for joining. This is the Reboot crew. So we're going to be on here. Well, I'm not sure if how often we're going to do this, but at least once a month. And we hope the topics we bring to you are going to be very informative and help you make more business decisions, better business decisions for yourself. So we're not a cybersecurity show. We're not a technology show. We're not a marketing show. We are just a general business show. But since we're all technology company owners, and many of us here are entrepreneurs and own other businesses as well, we thought we'd start off with a really simple topic that's actually a pretty important topic. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, huge topic. So we thought we'd start talking about passwords today. And so there's a lot that goes on around passwords, but really, in my opinion, and anybody blurt out wherever you want, in my opinion, passwords are kind of like almost the foundation of all security. Would you guys, anybody else?
Absolutely. Jim, 100%. In addition to that, passwords have been around since the inception, really, of the computer, right? Some simple passwords, of course, but passwords have been around for a long time for good reason. We need to secure our systems, and passwords were the basic way that we can do that, the beginning, as you said, the foundation. In addition to that, what we have to accept now is that we need long passwords, 12 characters, preferably 16 or greater. And
that's right, size matters.
It does matter. Size does matter in passwords for sure. And there's a plethora of ways to create a long, memorable password.
You know what's kind of funny about that, though, Adam?
I'm sorry?
Just to chime in on that, though, it's kind of wild because everywhere you go, you hear different recommendations or standards. So, what are you guys seeing or what do you recommend as being the standard? Because what I hear one day, you go to one location and they're saying, oh, we don't want to reset every 90 days. I don't necessarily agree that, we should be doing something like that. And so what do you guys thought?
The unfortunate thing is, I'm sorry.
Dave, I'm sorry, please.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say the unfortunate thing, Brandon, is that, password, complexity, length, the characters, capitals, what we still find and get into is even if they're making them longer, they're using the same password all over the place. And that becomes an even bigger problem.
And it's more than that, David. People share their passwords once in a while, and somebody else might remember that. So if somebody else knows your password and you're not using multi-factor authentication, then that password can be shared. It can be used again. You need to change your password. I hear what you're saying, Brandon. I've heard that too, and I think these people are crazy. I think I've mentioned this before. When I was back in the Air Force, we had a password every day. I worked on nuclear weapon systems to get into the shelters where the nukes were. Every day it changed. Every day it was different. And the reason why is because if you keep the same password and somebody knows that password, somebody else could use it. It's just a good idea to change your password and to use that complexity.
Well, so I want to combat that for a second, because every time I'm going to a customer talking to other business owners and I bring up something like that, they're going to tell me, well, I'm not in a compliance-driven sector. I don't need, nuclear codes, or I don't have nuclear codes. I don't want to change every single day. So my standpoint is, I want a secure password, and I want to layer in protections like multi-factor, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about. And then that's where I feel secure. And I think that's also where like some of the newer frameworks are aligning themselves, where you got a secure password. Maybe you're not changing it so frequently. And the reason is because you don't want people using those easy passwords or recycling those passwords or using them in 10 different locations.
So
I think really, though, it's a balance that if you have the long password, people are thinking, I don't want to change it as often. But the big thing is not to use variations of the same password all the time. And if you change it frequently, you're going to be more secure. And it's not really about being in a compliance industry. It's about what happens tomorrow when your business gets ransomware because you had a cheap password.
Yeah.
And now you can't access any of your stuff. And you also didn't have a backup because you were cheap. Now what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the big things that we see is one of our biggest clients, the chairman of the organization, walks around with a pad on a piece of paper with every single password. The guy's 70 some odd years old. And to combat that, I mean, we have a solution, right? We can use a password manager. I don't know any of my passwords. We use a password manager that, once in a while I may have to look one up, and if I have to look it up, I can see what it is. But you can have complex passwords, but have it software driven, so it will log you into all your websites. It's compatible with your mobile device. So there is a solution that will satisfy the need for a strong, secure password, as well as you not having to remember anything. So that's
the benefit, though, also just to use those type of tools, is that exactly what you said. You don't need to know the password, and if you need to share something with somebody, they don't need to know the password either. Because
exactly.
I have a good story for a second, just not to get off topic here, but so we've got a customer. Our policy is if the customer wants a password, we have documented, we don't own the information. It's our customer's information. We're happy to give it. And we just relay some, security recommendations around that if things are going to be shared. So in this case, the customer wanted their web guy, the web developer who is working on their website, to have domain access, which just means, hey, they can go in, change records. And there became a billing dispute. And during that billing dispute, developer got upset and changed the password, then added multi-factor, then changed the record of who owns the domain, and then all kinds of other things that made it very, very difficult for the business owner and the business to even get access to their information. They're really being held hostage by the vendor. They had to go through all kinds of things. So password manager to me is like key, or just using mechanisms where you don't have to give the password whatsoever via like delegated access or other things, and keeping some of those things really close to chest versus just giving it out to every single vendor that you work with.
Let me pop this on the screen while you guys keep talking, if you don't mind. Go ahead and keep talking, Dave. I'm just going to pop this up.
That's fine. A couple of things that I'll throw in just based on some of the comments. There are people out there who feel that the only password that ever needs to be changed is a password that's been compromised. There's some argument there. Some of the larger software vendors, Microsoft, for instance, they are really trying to do their best to do away with passwords altogether. And using a password manager is certainly a great way to be able to use different passwords, keep them complex, and not even know, like Brian said, I don't know my passwords either. Sometimes that presents a problem. But the other aspect is the key to all of these things is to protect your email account, right? Because when you need to reset your password, what are they going to do?
Yep.
Send you an email. And if you don't have that secure, if there's nothing else in life that you put a secure password on, it needs to be your email.
Yep.
I would agree with that.
To be clear, we should be putting passwords on everything. And anytime MFA is available, we should also be using multi-factor authentication.
And
Most especially around email, though. I mean, I align with David because in the case with the email, what's happening is for us across our client base, it's always some type of targeted attack trying to get access to the CFO, the controller, the CEO. And then once they get there, they're looking to cause some type of havoc with invoice changes, ACH changes. But once they get in there, you have no idea. And at least with multi-factor, even if they do get your password and you type it in, once they get to the point where they're trying to log in and get to the next level, they're locked out, right? And then more than likely your IT admin is going to start getting notifications if there's a whole bunch of failures there, and then can address the password reset at that point.
We use email as it's the core of everything that we do all day long. Everything that comes and goes throughout your day, probably 90% of it revolves around your email. And I'll share a story here about a client. So a client of ours had a vendor that they had a lease of a big machine. This lease was somewhere around $300,000. They sent an email to the vendor, told them that they wanted to pay off the lease. Well, as everyone found out after the fact, the individual email box that they were sending to had been compromised. So they sent this request that, hey, we want to pay off this $295,000 of the lease. The person that they were sending to, their email box was compromised. The hacker was in that mailbox, took that conversation offline, communicated with the client, sent them 3 different banking wire instructions to wire this money to. Again, wiring the money was my client's idea. But that whole conversation happened in email. From the very first email that went to the vendor, the hacker was in that mailbox, took it offline, had a domain that they had created that was off by 1 letter, and then started communicating back with the client, my client, and fooled them into sending $295,000 via wire to what they thought was their vendor, was actually the hacker. So for the vendor, I really don't know what happened, but the client paid the money, the vendor didn't get the money, so I'm sure that there was a ensuing legal battle there.
On top of the wire transfer fraud, which is like crazy right now, but how does it look for even when that doesn't happen, but your mailbox gets compromised, you're the business owner, your main point of contact, and they're doing something to spam out to your customers more than likely, and then you have to go a week later and start sending notices to your customers, hey, we had this compromise. Like, how does that look to you?
How are they going to trust you, right? If your mailbox got compromised, then how do they trust the mails that come from you in the future? You're ruining your own reputation by letting someone get into your mailbox. And it doesn't even matter if you sell nuts and bolts or if you're a healthcare provider. You don't want your mailbox getting compromised and then sending out your clients and your vendors emails trying to scam them and spoof them, because now you've tarnished your reputation and they're unlikely to believe you.
So we had a situation 2 weeks ago where, by the way, do you guys have any mechanisms in place for your customers, or do your customers have mechanisms in place if their passwords are hacked? Right. So we had a situation where one of our customers' mailboxes got hacked. The password was actually stolen on the dark web. They used it somewhere else, so it was readily available. Like it might have been found in a LinkedIn hack or a Target hack or whatever. Right. They had duplicated their password, used it more than one place, and sure enough, our MDR, which is picked up on it and alerted immediately when it was found or stolen over the weekend. And we were able to actually get in and lock that mailbox before anybody got into it, right? Fortunately, the person had changed that password, and we got an alert that somebody did try to get into it, and it's unsuccessful from, I don't know, China or something like that.
Well, that's the problem with using the same password in multiple places, right? Because when one of those passwords, like a LinkedIn breach, occurs and your password gets taken, and now the dark web scanning tells us, okay, this password is available for sale on the dark web, and you got to go change your LinkedIn password. But if you used it on 16 other websites, you got to remember every website you ever used that password on, because now you got to go change them all.
And you know what most people do also in their personal lives and their professional lives, I don't care if you're a business owner or a worker, I might use my Netflix and my Amazon and my American Express and my bank account and all the same password, as well as the same password I use for my login to my computer, login to my email, which is a big no-no, right? So co-mixing personal email and business emails co-mixing business passwords and personal passwords, nightmare, right? Never cross that line, in my opinion.
Well, and the problem is, though, that the average person, if you're not using a password manager, how in the world could you be expected to? I mean, you have hundreds of passwords, right? Even if you're just at home, you've got your bank, you've got maybe your credit card company, you've got your
gas and electric, phone.
Yeah, all those different websites that you go to, your email.
I think the average is 108 websites per person in the United States.
Who's gonna remember all those manually without a password manager, create complicated passwords manually without a password manager, and then change them all the time and keep track of them?
So I think a lot of people, though, they don't worry about it.
Yeah.
They're like, well, who's going to target me? I'm just the one of the workers. I'm the admin assistant, or I'm whoever in the business. Like, nobody's going to try and target me. But at the end of the day, they just want money, right? They're going to use your information to sell it or
transcend business.
And they can use that information to break into the server, to the company's server, or break into email eventually. So, no, you're right.
Well, in today's case, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, in today's case, the email password isn't oftentimes the same username and password that you use to log into your network at work. Yeah. They're tied to cloud, Office 365 or Google or whatever products are being used. We had a situation with a client where a user on a network at a vendor site got compromised. The vendor sends an email every year to this client. The hacker sent an email from this email box to the client with the virus attached to it. They tried to open the attachment because it was expected. They thought they were going to get this email every year. It wasn't out of the norm. And their security software jumped up and said, nope, this is infected. Well, they called us complaining. They couldn't open up the attachment. Well, we dig in a little further, and what we find out is the employee at the vendor had been let go 6 months prior. Their user account had never been disabled. Their email address stayed active. A hacker gained access to that simple user account, who then went to their clients, who are CEOs or directors or managers who have better things to give a hacker, and then started initiating conversation. It was natural, and so it happens. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what level of access you have. There's always somebody tied to you down the chain that has higher level access. And that's just an open door.
Hackers they're not looking for the quick money anymore necessarily, right? They will get in, hang out, linger, figure out what's going on. Who do I have access to, right? And really almost strategize about how they can.
It could be 6 months or a year.
Yeah,
easily.
I've got this in now. What can I do with it? Who do I have control over? Who could I persuade? And one of the things that came to my mind too was, we talk about this, and to all of us, it makes perfect sense, and we've seen it. But I think so. I said that the one client of mine sent $295,000. That's by far the largest one that I've ever seen. And I don't know if they got it back or not. They did tell me that they didn't have cyber insurance, which is a whole other topic. But I think that might be nice if anyone can share some of the dollar amounts that companies pay, that firsthand, what did a company have to pay because they had bad password management, right? Well, everybody thinks there's no cost.
Let me go first, please, Adam. Let me go on this one, because I really honestly think I got the story to take all stories here.
That's why you did the last.
And I hope I'm right, because if I'm right, that means that it's the worst of the worst, right? And everything else is meaningless, is less important, or less bad, if you will. And so here I am in Cincinnati, right? And Cincinnati bridges right across the river is Northern Kentucky, okay? And so law firms on both sides of the river. And so there was a targeted attack, phishing attack, all right, that pushed an email to at least 5 different good-sized law firms. I'm talking 50 attorneys on up, right? And of those 5 law firms, by the way, the Bar Association is the one that alerted everybody of this. One of the bar associations local. Of those 5 law firms that were phished, that somebody clicked on a link, that the passwords and credentials were stolen, right? Okay. There were 2 law firms that fell prey to it without a question and lost about $200,000 apiece, all right? And then a third one that actually just came so close to falling prey to it, to the point at which the last second, the person involved in that email chain decided, yeah, I better check this out. So almost 3 law firms, but definitely 2 law firms at $200,000 apiece got taken. And what's worse for a law firm, these were monies, I believe these were monies that were probably in escrow, if I'm not mistaken, which is a big no-no for a law firm. So,
well, and not to mention, so depending on what kind of law firm these are, what kind of data they store, was data exfiltrated? Did they have to work with a data breach investigator? Is there breach notification requirements? Do they have to notify customers? How does that look from a PR standpoint? There's a lot of other costs that people don't think about versus just paying a ransom or whatever that fee is for remediation.
Isn't it funny? It all starts with passwords.
It does.
Yeah.
You know, it all starts with passwords. And so, guys, so I want to kind of move to talking about what do you have to do? What should we do, right? I mean, we're about to reboot, right? Let's reboot the content here. Let's go to if every one of us had an idea what is your go-to solution for solving that password problem? I personally think password policies. That NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology, came out with the newest opinion on it, and they say don't change passwords, but make one long, complex password that's never changed. You know, as I put up on the screen before, this is where we're at right now with passwords. I mean, it takes I was amazed yesterday, a 10-character password with just upper and lowercase, takes only a month to hack. And we're all saying that, hackers are hanging out in networks for more than a month, right? So, it's
yeah.
Well, this kind of illustrates though how important the password managers are, because now you can have a 26-character password. You don't need to remember it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that also, that is good information on that chart, but it's somewhat misleading, right? Because that's basically a brute force attack is what you're outlining there.
Right.
How long it takes a computer to run the algorithms to try and defeat the password.
Sure.
But if somebody gets a hold of a user account on a domain and gets a foothold in that network, now it's about password hashes. I don't need the password. I just need the hash. And I don't care how many characters you got in the password. I don't care if they're complex. I don't care if it's 12 characters. No. That's where your multi-factor authentication, your access by geotagging, only IP addresses, specific areas, VPN clients, there's so many layers of things you can do. But the key, in my mind, as with all security aspects, is people hate it because it adds steps and it makes it more inconvenient. So you need to find a way to balance the long password, the complexity of the password, using a password manager, but then do things like single sign-on so that the user can log in one time and then every other aspect that they need from that computer is accessible without another credential.
But isn't that kind of a threat too, if you think about it? If they're on that system and they sign into one with single sign-on, if that is hacked, they've got everything else.
Yeah, if you're doing single
sign-on.
So single sign-on is great, but you have to protect that single sign-on as much as possible. So you need to put those extra steps and annoyances that people don't like to get past that first step. And then everything else is all of a sudden easier then, right, to get to all the other services you want to connect to. But I mean, to me, for email, that's key. You want to stop them from even getting in that door, because once they get in the door, like what David was saying, whatever other technical things they need to do to get their way throughout the rest of the network, they're going to be able to do. So stopping them from just getting in the beginning. And for me, low-hanging fruit, protect email as much as possible. If you're going to do any one thing, enable multi-factor authentication, just like your bank is requiring now, just like most of the financial institutions that you probably work with to do your investments at home are requiring. Like, have it shoot you the text, use the app, whatever it is. That just exponentially increases the security of that login.
I think the second thing here is ongoing training. Go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. There's no question, Brandon, that MFA is a great tool. But I think, was it David Groot who mentioned that it's you have to stack on security, which again is a whole other subject. Because even if you have MFA, and we've all seen it, right? We saw Kevin Mitnick break into that email through the internet, right? Because somebody was using a common wireless access point, right? Or people were using a public one. So he was able to break into without having to worry about passwords and get all that information. So it's very important that all the layers of security are there. And, remember when, just a few short years ago, it seems to me that we were the heroes, right? We would come in and we'd swoop down and we'd fix computer problems and we were awesome. And now we're the people, our clients don't want to hear from. They don't want to hear from us because we're making them do these things. But it's really for their own protection.
It's like traffic cops now is where we are. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
That's right.
I think Apple's made it very easy. We have some managing partners and partners that you have the ability to use biometrics, your thumbprint or facial recognition, and that's too much. They need that off. They want to just open the phone. And in there is a notepad with all their passwords. So, combating that is another challenge that we face.
That's right.
So
I would say that if you were to look at all the organizations that I support, the most insecure members of those organizations are either the owners or the partners, which is an unfortunate thing. Because honestly, at the top, the bad guys, the bad actors, really want their information first, right? They're working their way up to that point. They're not working their way down.
I think it has to come from the top down, though. You're not going to get adoption across the organization unless you can get buy-in and educate.
You don't get buy-in, exactly.
I cannot say enough about that particular topic because I don't think that I've had one client or prospect that has not been open to the idea of securing everything, with the one exception of they don't want to have it for them.
That's right.
The CEO or the person who holds the keys to the castle. Everybody else can be impacted by that security, but by golly, like you say, Brian, I got a phone. I want to just be able to have it, and there's my notepad, and I got all my passwords. That's how I do things. I'm the owner of this company. I started it, and that. Look, I respect that, but the bottom line is, you can get mad at us for trying to implement these safeguards, or when the breach occurs, you can get mad at us for not implementing the safeguards. And it's a question of which time do you want to get them mad at you, right? do you want them?
I think the mentality is softening, though, Dave. I think that mentality is softening a little bit. I get it. I used to have a home alarm, right? And that home alarm was annoying when I was at work because the dogs, the cats would set it off or something like that. So we just stopped setting it. And, you don't want it to be that way. You got to have those protections in place. So I think the mentality is softening. I got a statistic yesterday from one of the guys in the group that we're a part of. And a Galactic Advisor, it was Bruce McCulley, right? And so this is what he put up on the screen. In 2017, there were only $2.3 million in ransomware payments, right? We're on track for 2020 to hit $10 billion in ransomware payments. And I think that it's a nice thing to kind of point out. Look, the ransomwares can be any amount of money, right? The $1,000 all the way. Nobody's doing $1,000 anymore. Everybody's doing. If you're getting hit, it's $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, and if you don't pay, you will be exploited by these people. How many times have we seen it?
I think usually what they're saying though now is the ransomware is just to hide the attack that has already happened. It's already too late. Everything's done, and so if you're
the game is over, right?
Yeah, they're just covering their tracks at that point. So
and today, the early days of ransomware. I'm sorry, Brandon. I'm really not trying to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But it was all about making it so you couldn't use your data and holding it ransom. You paid them, and then you could use your data again. But today, they take the data first, then they encrypt it. Now they tell you, okay, great. If you don't pay us, you can't use your data. But more importantly, we're going to sell your data or post it online for everybody to have. And there comes your breach notification. There comes
We
your
actually we had a
You
demo.
all have made a good point. Always use protection.
We had a dental customer that had ransomware. We picked them up after they had it. They weren't our customer beforehand. And they said, oh, yeah, we think we got it on Thursday because we came in Monday and everything was encrypted. One of our vendors did some investigation, found out that they had it for 3 weeks before they did the ransomware. So exactly what Brandon's saying. They grabbed everything they could, and at the end, they lit it all on fire to hide their tracks. Interestingly enough, they had called the FBI to tell them, hey, we had ransomware. What do we do? We ended up bringing the server back to our office, and 3 FBI agents with guns came and picked it up. To
The
do an
statistic,
investigation on it.
as of a couple of months ago, I know the statistic was that a hacker has generally had a foothold on your network for an average of 180 days prior to the execution of a ransomware attack.
I
And
think
frankly,
that's above 200 days now, David.
okay. And then the next conversation we need to have, not today, but in another show, is 95% of these ransomware attacks and these footholds start with a phishing email.
Yep.
So if we can just take the people out of the equation, security is a breeze, right? But that's not the case.
Just to go back for a second too, though, I think that people are getting more used to some of these requirements and what, maybe a year ago people would call a hindrance. And there's all these compliance requirements coming down the pipeline as well. So I think whether some of these businesses like it or not, states like New York, Massachusetts, California is creating laws now that are going to force, major requirements around securing information via email, password requirements. It's just a matter of time until there's requirements around all MSPs, because now MSPs are large targets all around the world. So I think it's softening in terms of conversations that we have today.
I think it's softening out of necessity and out of legislation and compliance. So, well, listen, we're already over a couple minutes, and that's fine. I think it's a great topic, but let's talk about real fast. What's the next move for someone? We've rebooted the topic, taken another look at it. It's definitely time to reconsider it. Show of hands, change your passwords right now, or multi-factor. Change your passwords. If that's the first thing you think everybody should do, is go change passwords and make them long and complex passwords. Now, first step, multi-factor.
That's right.
What do you guys think? Multi-factor.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's certainly
It's a unanimous thing. Multi-factor on your Microsoft 365, on your firewalls, on your
everywhere.
Everything. Wouldn't you say?
Yep.
Anything that supports it.
That's
All right. You know what, Ryan? What would be the second thing, or anybody for that matter? What would be the second thing after you do the multi-factor?
User education.
Yeah, for email, I was going to say that just the basics, user education. If you get an email and it says urgent warning, your stuff's going to implode if you don't do this now. Enter in your credentials and you have to make a new account. It's going to expire. We're going to take access from your money. Anything urgent.
Time-based, it's always, yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's always a sense of urgency. That's like the big giveaway that I tell people. Look for that red flag. If it's urgent, be cautious, right? And I also like to tell people if you question an email whether it's valid or not, don't click it, don't do it. Call, pick up the telephone. If you know that person, call them on a number, not a number that's in the email.
Yeah, right.
But a number that some other way, and call, and hopefully that person's voice, or you can somehow otherwise verify that actually came from them.
Yeah, good point.
And if you got an IT guy as well,
Can you
your support guy to review over for you.
Yeah.
Can you just reply to the email?
Yeah, that's like saying, "Hi, I'm a sucker."
I want to make that clear, right? You could not be replying to that email.
Hey, send me more emails, please. I will respond to you.
Yeah. That's why I say.
Guys, I think we effectively reboot this topic. What do you guys think?
I think so.
I
Give it a good press of the reboot button, guys.
Yeah.
All right, remember the two most important things: size matters and use protection.
Thank you for that, Stephanie. All right, we're going to sign off until the next time. Thank you so much, guys. This was fun.
It was.
Thanks,
guys,
guys.
sit here. We'll stay on top. We'll stay here.